Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be exploring CSS Grid. CSS Grid is a powerful layout system that allows us to arrange our elements in rows and columns. Just like flexbox, CSS Grid also have its own concepts. We have the grid container, we have the grid items, we have the grid areas, we have grid gap, and we have so much more. But in this video, we're going to start with a basic example. It's not like there's going to be a complex example later, but let's just start with something simple. Now, just like flexbox, CSS Grid has container and also have grid items. So let's start by setting up the container. So I'll give this a class of grid container, and I'll give it grid items as well. So say we want 6 items, and I'll also need to give this a class name. I'll just start from here and so say we want 6 items for our grid, and I'll just put the class name since I'm giving them the same styling, so I don't have to give them different class names. We'll do that when it is necessary. Okay, so let's start by styling our grid container. Now, just like flexbox as well, our grid container should have a display of grid. Just like our flexbox container will have a display of flex. Now, grid and flexbox have some similarities and differences, and we are going to talk about that in the next video. Okay, so we have given our grid container a display of grid. Now let's see the next thing. We're going to give it a property called grid template columns. Now this just means the number of columns you want to give to the layout. The number of columns you want your grid to have. Now in this case, we are going to have 3 columns. Now the grid system uses this value. It uses FR, which means fraction. This, as much as this is working for the number of columns, it is also working for the width. Now this could be 0.5, this could be 0.2, this could be any number. But like I said, we are starting with a simple example, so I want you guys to be able to comprehend. Now we have the grid templates columns, which just allocated 3 columns to the grid layout. And we're also going to have a grid template rows. In the definition, I said grid allows us to arrange our elements in rows and in columns. Okay. But in this case, I'm going to use auto for the rows. I just want the number of columns to determine the number of rows. Now, I believe we should know how this will display when we view it on our browser. We're going to have 3 columns. That is, 1, 2, 3 are going to be on one row, and 4, 5, 6 are going to be on the next row. So we're going to have 3 columns and 2 rows. But before we see how it looks like, let's give the grid item some styling. So I'm going to give this a background color of, I don't want made of center. Okay, now let's see how our grid layout looks like. Now we're going to have something like this, but something is missing. And that is our grid gap. The grid gap basically just gives spaces between our grid items. say we want 8px for our grid gap, and it will just give spaces between each of our grid item like this. So here we have it. We have a 3-column grid layout and a 2-row grid layout. Now let's add something interesting. Say we are viewing from a large screen, which of course we are. So how would this look like if you're viewing from a smaller screen, or how do we want it to look like if we are viewing from a smaller screen? So let's just do that quickly. We're going to have our media keyword, and we're just going to put the rule. We're going to say once it goes below 420 pixels, then we want it to have a grid column a grid template column of 1 FR, just one column. So we're going to say grid template column 1 FR. I mentioned that those 1 FR, we have 3 1 FRs, and this just simply means that we are going to have 3 columns. If this was 4 1 FRs, then we are going to have 4 columns. If this was 5, we're going to have 5 columns. So by putting 1 FR here means we only want 1 column for our grid layout. So automatically, our grid items are going to stack up on each other because they're going to take up the entire width available. We want to see how it will look like from a smaller screen. So they're going to take the entire width available on the screen. So thereby causing the next item to go beneath and the likes. So let's just reduce so we can see that once it goes below 420px, then it gives us 1 column for each of the item. Or once it goes above 420, then we'll have our 3 columns back. Okay, so this is basically how grid layouts works. But in the next video, we're going to see another example of the grid layout. So I hope this was really easy to grasp and it wasn't confusing at all. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. So let's see another example, a more complex example. Not complex, just another example. All right, so we're going to start off by creating a container for our grid items, and I'll give this a class of G container, which is just means grid container. Then I would have a nav right here. I just give this nav menu, and I'll have the main tag and just give this main menu. And then I'll have a div, and I'll give that div a class of sidebar. At this it would be sidebar. That just comes out later here. And I'm going to include another div, and I'll give this class. Now, this example is just how a basic website should look like. A basic website should have a navigation bar, should have the main menu, should have a sidebar. It's not necessary, but should have a sidebar, and should have images now, or should have content. Now the content could be write-ups or could be pictures. So say I want to use picture in this case. So I could say image 1 and this is image 1. Okay, I'll just change this to smaller kids. Say we want to have 3 images. So this would become image 2. And another image. So we are having 3 pictures. So this would be image 3. And let's have a last one, which is our footer. Now every website should have a footer. Should have a footer. All right, so we have the HTML set up. We have a container for our grid items. So I'm going to start off by styling my grid container. And I'll give this a margin top of, say, 30px, because I don't want to touch in the previous example. And let's start by giving it a display of grid. And read template columns. So for these layouts, we want 4 columns. So we allocate 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR. And for the row, now we are not using auto this time. We're using value. So we're using 0.2 FR, 1.5 FR, 1.2 FR, and 1 point, or that might be too much. Let's use 0.8 FR. Now, the number of, I explained in the previous video that the columns here also means the width, that is the size of each flex, of each grid items. Now, I'm going to give my container 100 view height. Now, this just means that I want this guys to take the full height of the viewports, regardless of the screen of the device. All right. So I give my grid template rules 0.2, 1.5, 1.2, and 0.8 FR. Now, this is automatically just taking up after allocating spaces to the columns. The rest of the space is distributed between the rows. Now, how to calculate 0.2? You might be wondering, how would you know what 0.2 is? You multiply 0.2 by 100 by 100. Now, the result that gives you is the number of heights that you would have. And then you can do the same thing for 1.5. Multiply 1.5 multiplied by 100 VH. Then the result it gives you is the heights you're going to have. So we have enough height. We have 100 VH. So it's just taking the rest of the space from our container. Okay, once that is set up, then let's start working on each of our flex. Why do I keep saying flex? Each of our grid items. Now, we're going to have grid template areas. It's a property that is used to specify the arrangements of your grid items. So I'm going to have nav, like the entire row, the entire width. The first item should take the entire width. And do not forget that we have 4 columns. So we are just saying, now this is basically just doing col span and row span in HTML tables. Now, if we were using col span or row span, this would be col span 4. We want nav to take 4 columns. So now we are just allocating that to nav. And then moving on, I want main to start at the left-hand side, and I want my content 1. Okay, not content 1. I want my sidebar to start. Sidebar first, and you have to take note of how you name your class. Now, I almost made a mistake now because I used an hyphen here and I did not use an hyphen here. So I'm going to put the hyphen. So I want sidebar to start at the left-hand side, and then main. So again, if we were using HTML table and we're doing row span and col span, this would be col span 3. Now we are asking sidebar to maintain its position, but now we are asking main to spread across and take the entire column, just like how nav did. Moving on, we're going to have sidebar again, and this time we're going to have image 1, image 2, and image 3. Now, image 1, image 2, and image 3 are taking their position. They are not spanning across any column or any row. But if you notice, sidebar is spanning across rows now because it has spaces. Okay, so moving on, we're going to put sidebar again. And now if we notice, we'll see that sidebar is taking, if we're using HTML table to do this, this would be row span 3. Then we'll have footer, taking 3. Image 1, 2, 3 are not taking anything, they are maintaining their position. And footer is taking 3 column span, and sidebar is taking 3 row span. It's taking 3 rows throughout the layout. Okay, but that's not all. Now, if we check this up in browser, it's not going to give us anything. It's not going to give us anything close to what we want. So we need to allocate, we need to specify where these grid areas are to take place. So now we are calling nav, and we are saying grid area. Then we say nav. And let's give it a background color as well, so to differentiate each of the grid layout or each of the content. I'm not really good at picking colors, so I'll just start with orange. And moving on, my main grid area, main. We are just saying what we did here should take effect. Now we are specifying that for main is taking 3 column span. Main is taking 3 column. So we are just allocating it to the different content. So it's more like without these guys that are doing now, these guys would not be effective. So let's give it a background color, say purple. I hope this comes out really good. So moving on, we're going to have class sidebar. I will give it a grid area as well. Grid area sidebar. Then we'll call our image 1. Oh, I didn't give that a background color. So let's give this a background color that. And grid area image 1. Background color sky blue. Then image 2, grid area image 2. And the background color would be yellow, or maybe this yellow gray. And the last image 3, the grid area is image 3, and the background color would be, oh, this is nice. Okay, just pick that. And the last one is footer. So footer, grid area, footer. Background color, I'll just pick this. All right. So now we've allocated the different we've allocated different. Okay, I don't want to make this complex. Like I said earlier, that by setting up these guys, or these guys is not going to work if these guys are not in place. So we are just asking them to take up their spaces here. So once we are done with that, now let's open it up in browser and see what each of our contents looks like. All right, so we can see what we got here. We have our main menu taking the entire row here, which is also taking column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. And then we have sidebar. So what we did earlier, where we said nav, this is it. And then we said sidebar, main menu. And then we came again and said sidebar, image 1, image 2, and image 3. And then sidebar, footer. So that is what we have right here. So this is what a grid layout looks like. Now, this could be an actual navigation bar. This could be a write-up or anything. This could be a write-up as well. This could be an actual image, or could be a write-up, and this could be an actual footer. So this is what a grid layout looks like. But let's make this more interesting, just like we did for the previous example. Let's add some responsiveness to this. When it is viewed on a smaller screen, then it should have some styling. So we're going to start at media. Once it goes beyond 550, not 550, 550px. Once it goes beyond 550px, then we want our G container to have just one column. So we say grid template column 1fr. So we want it to just have one column. So nav is taking one column, main is taking one, image is taking one, and the rest of it. And then for the grid template rows, we just want to allocate different heights now to these rows. So let's start with 0.4 and 0.4 and say 2.2 fr, say 1.2 fr, 1.2 fr, and let's do 1.2 fr again, and 1 fr. So we just allocated different heights to our content. We gave it one column, so the remaining space will be distributed around or within those guys. All right, then the last one is, of course, we need to allocate the grid templates areas as well, just like we did for the previous one. So we're going to allocate the grid templates areas, and this would be nav. This would be nav. The next one would be main. And the next one would be sidebar. And then we'll have image 1 and image 2 and image 3. Image 2 and image 3. You have to include everything. You have to put everything within a double quote. And of course, we have footer. So we allocated one column to our grid layout. So we're just telling nav to take one column, main to take one, sidebar to take one, image 1 to take one column, image 2 to take one, image 3, and footer should take one column. But this should only happen when where we are viewing from a screen that is below 5, that the width is below 550 px. So by doing this, let's see what it looks like once we open in browser. So we are still maintaining our large screen. Then let's reduce this to go beyond 550 px. So we can see what happens. If we are viewing from a large screen, we have this, but once we go below 550 px, it goes like this. So everything is just one column. So if you are viewing from a mobile phone, this is how our nav will display. The main menu, the sidebar, and the images. And I think that would be all. Or let's give this a grid gap. They are so closely. Grid gap, say maybe 3 px. All right, so I think it is looking maybe better. So that is what the grid gap does. Just put spaces around each of the grid items. So this is another example of a grid layout, and maybe in more videos to come, we're going to do an actual project with the grid layouts. We're going to use write-ups, we're going to use images to design a grid layout. So I hope this was not confusing, and I hope it was easy to grasp. Please, I'll put it in the comment section if you have any question at all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.